Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into the English-speaking job market today.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Think of this deep dive like your secret weapon for decoding all that tricky job hunting lingo.
I like it.
We've got some great source material lined up that's basically a crash course on everything from resumes to interviews to all that good stuff.
It's really fascinating, actually. What I found really interesting about these sources is that they don't just define the terms.
Right.
They really get into the strategy behind them, you know?
Oh, that's
It's like they've taken all the best advice from career coaches and hiring managers and distilled it all down into these really actionable tips.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Resumes.
Oh,
Everyone's favorite topic, right?
the bane of our existence.
I know. But seriously, our source material highlights something really crucial here.
Okay.
The power of strong action verbs.
Yes.
And I don't just mean like using managed instead of did. It's about getting way more specific and impactful with your word choices.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's about thinking about, okay, if you are a software developer, instead of saying developed a website, you could say led a team of 5 to develop a user-friendly website that increased customer engagement by 20%.
Whoa.
See the difference?
Okay, yeah. That's way more powerful.
Right.
It's not just about what you did.
Yeah,
It's about the impact you made.
exactly. And that's what employers want to see results. So I have a challenge for everyone listening.
Ooh, I like a challenge.
Pull up your own resume.
Okay.
Take a look at those verbs.
All right, I'm doing it right now.
Are they doing your skills justice?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Could you swap them out for something stronger, something that really showcases your accomplishments?
I love that little homework assignment.
There you go.
All right, so you've got your resume packed with power verbs.
Check.
Now you need a cover letter to really seal the deal.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people get stuck. But our source material breaks down the purpose and structure in a way that's super clear and actually kind of inspiring.
It is.
Yeah.
You know what I found really interesting here is that the source emphasizes how a cover letter is your chance to show your personality.
Okay.
Your resume is all facts and figures, but the cover letter is where you can let your passion and enthusiasm shine through. It's where you connect with the employer on a human level.
So it's not just a summary of your resume.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mini story about why you're the perfect fit
Precisely.
for this specific role.
Yes. And you know what else I found really helpful?
What's that?
The source material talks about the importance of the call to action in the closing paragraph.
Oh,
It's not just about saying thanks for your time.
yeah.
It's about proactively expressing your eagerness to move forward in the process.
Okay, it's just like, hey, I'm ready for that interview. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got the killer resume and a compelling cover letter.
We're doing good.
Now we need to find the right jobs to apply for.
All right, the fun part.
Yeah. So our source material dives into decoding job postings,
Okay.
like how to read between the lines and figure out what employers are really looking for.
Yes, and this is where things get strategic.
Ooh, I like it.
The source material gives this great tip about using keywords from the job posting to tailor your resume and cover letter.
Oh, that's smart.
It's about speaking their language, showing them that you understand their needs and that you've done your homework.
It makes sense if you're an employer and you see a resume that's clearly tailored to your specific job posting, shows that the applicant is serious and invested.
Absolutely. And it's not just about keywords.
Okay.
It's about understanding the underlying problems that the company's trying to solve. What are their pain points?
Right.
How can your skills and experience help them overcome those challenges?
Ooh.
If you can articulate that
Yeah,
in your application materials, you'll definitely stand out.
that's such a good point. Okay, let's move on to some of the more foundational elements
Yes.
of the job application process.
Okay.
Qualifications, experience, and references.
The classics.
I know our source material covers the basics here, but it also includes a really important insider tip about references
Oh, yes.
that I think a lot of people overlook.
This is one of those things that seems obvious, but it's crucial.
Oh, really?
Always get permission before listing someone as a reference.
Oh.
Not only is it common courtesy,
Okay.
but it also gives your reference a chance to prepare
Oh, that's good.
and make sure they're comfortable speaking about your qualifications.
Yeah, you don't want to catch someone off guard
Exactly.
and potentially like sabotage your chances.
Right. It's much better to have a few enthusiastic references who are ready to sing your praises
Yes.
than a long list of people who are hesitant or unprepared.
Okay, so you've submitted your application
Fingers crossed.
and you get the call for an interview.
Yay.
Exciting but nerve-wracking, right?
Oh, for sure.
Our source material acknowledges this and really emphasizes the importance of preparation.
Absolutely.
And they offer some really practical advice
Okay.
for tackling one of the most common interview questions.
Which is?
Tell me about yourself.
Oh,
I know this is where so many people stumble,
I know, I do.
but it's actually a golden opportunity to make a strong first impression.
It is.
Yeah, I always find myself like fumbling through that one.
Me too.
So what's the secret?
The key is to craft a concise and engaging response that highlights your relevant skills and experience.
Okay.
And then this is the crucial part, connects them back to the specific role you're interviewing for.
Uh-huh.
You're not just reciting your resume.
Right.
You're telling a story that demonstrates why you're the perfect fit for this particular job.
It's like you're saying, here's who I am, here's what I'm good at, and here's how I can contribute to your team.
Exactly.
I like it.
And you know what else I found helpful?
Tell me.
The source material suggests practicing your response out loud,
Oh?
even recording yourself,
Ooh, that's a good idea.
so you can hear how you sound.
Yeah.
You want to come across as confident and enthusiastic,
Right.
not robotic or rehearsed.
That's such good advice.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people focus on what they're going to say, but forget about how they're going to say it.
Totally. And remember, an interview is a two-way street.
That's true.
It's not just about answering their questions. It's about asking your own questions.
Right.
To get a feel for the company culture
Yeah.
and whether it's a good fit for you.
That's a great reminder.
So we've talked about resumes, cover letters, and interviews.
We are on a roll.
Now let's dive into the world of networking.
All right, let's do it.
Our source material defines it as building relationships to discover job opportunities.
Okay.
It's about making connections and expanding your professional circle.
I like that.
But what's really interesting here is that the source goes beyond the traditional idea of networking.
Okay.
At formal events,
Right.
they talk about the importance of building relationships online.
Oh, like LinkedIn.
Exactly, through platforms like LinkedIn and even through casual conversations with people in your field.
Wow. I love that. It's like networking doesn't have to be this stuffy, formal thing.
Yeah,
It can happen organically through genuine interactions.
absolutely. And, you know, sometimes the most unexpected connections can lead to the most amazing opportunities.
That's so true. Okay, before we move on, I want to touch on a topic
Yes.
that's often a bit awkward.
Uh-oh.
Perks and pay.
The money talk.
I know it's important to be prepared to discuss salary expectations
Yes,
during the interview process.
it is.
But how do you even approach that conversation?
Well, our source material has some excellent advice on this.
Okay, good.
It emphasizes the importance of researching average salaries
Okay,
for similar roles in your location.
that makes sense.
Knowledge is power when it comes to negotiation.
Right.
You need to know your worth and be able to articulate it confidently.
You don't want to undersell yourself or price yourself out of the run.
Exactly. And it's not just about salary.
Oh.
It's about understanding the entire compensation package, benefits, vacation time, professional development opportunities.
All that good stuff.
All of it.
Okay, this is all great information.
I know, right?
But I'm curious, what about different work styles?
Oh, yeah.
Full-time, part-time, freelance contract work.
It's a whole new world out there.
There's so many options these days.
You're absolutely right. And our source material actually does a fantastic job of breaking down these different work styles.
Okay.
And encouraging you to think about which one aligns best with your lifestyle and career goals.
That's so important. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's about finding the work style that allows you to thrive both professionally and personally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what's really fascinating is that the traditional 9-to-5 office job
Yeah,
is becoming less and less common.
it's true.
More and more people are opting for remote work, flexible schedules, and even starting their own businesses.
I love to see it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part.
We have.
We've talked about crafting a powerful resume,
Check.
writing a compelling cover letter,
Sure.
acing that interview,
Check.
networking like a pro,
Check.
and even navigating the tricky waters of salary negotiation and work style options.
We did it.
But there's so much more to explore.
I know in part 2, we're going to dive even deeper into the English-speaking job market.
Ooh, exciting.
We'll tackle those subtle but oh so important workplace dynamics,
Okay.
cultural nuances, and communication styles that can really make or break your success.
Can't wait. Welcome back. So we just finished talking about finding the right work style.
Yeah.
But you know, Actually landing the job is just the first step.
Right.
Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of what it's like to navigate the English-speaking workplace.
Okay.
And I gotta say, some of these source materials are giving me flashbacks.
Really?
To my first office job.
Ooh.
Good times, mostly.
That's good.
It's like there's this whole hidden curriculum that no one tells you about.
Right.
You learn the job description, sure.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole other layer of workplace culture, unspoken rules, communication styles.
Oh, yeah.
It can be a lot to figure out.
Totally. And our sources don't just skim the surface here.
No.
They get into some really interesting and sometimes awkward aspects of office life.
Okay. Give me an example.
Okay, like, remember that whole thing about probation periods? I always thought that was just paperwork stuff.
Right. But the source material we have really digs into the strategy behind it.
Okay.
It points out that probation periods are a chance for both the employer and the employee to assess if it's a good fit.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's not just about keeping your head down and doing your work, It's about actively demonstrating your value and exceeding expectations.
Okay, that's a good spin on it.
Yeah.
View it as a proving ground.
Not just a waiting period.
Exactly.
Speaking of proving yourself, our sources also cover job descriptions.
Okay.
But in a way I hadn't really thought of before.
What's that?
What I found fascinating here is they emphasize how job descriptions are often just the starting point.
Oh, interesting.
As you settle into a role, your responsibilities might evolve.
Right.
You might take on new projects or even find yourself collaborating with different teams.
Ooh.
So it's not about being confined by that job description.
Okay.
But being open to growth and taking on new challenges.
Exactly. And the sources even tie this back to the idea of promotions, suggesting that going above and beyond your initial job description can actually position you really well for advancement.
Okay, so it's like always be looking for ways to add value.
Yes.
Even if it's outside the strict lines of your job description.
Yeah.
But how do you balance that with, you know, not burning yourself out?
Right, that's important.
Yeah, our sources talk a lot about work-life balance.
Yes.
Which feels super relevant these days.
It is. It's a hot topic, and the sources highlight that it's not just about clocking out at 5 p.m. either.
Right.
It's about setting boundaries, prioritizing your well-being, and making sure you have time for things you enjoy outside of work.
You know, I think it's also about recognizing that everyone's definition of balance is different.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
That's a great point. And the sources actually suggest having open conversations with your manager or team about your individual needs and preferences.
Yeah.
It's about finding a balance that works for both you and the company.
Okay, so we've talked about navigating your role within a company.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the people and, dare I say, the drama. I mean, our sources get real about office politics.
It's one of those topics people kind of dance around, but it's definitely a reality in most workplaces. What I found really helpful is that the sources break down office politics into a few key elements.
Like what?
Well, they talk about understanding the informal networks and relationships within the company. Who are the key influencers? Who are the decision makers? And how do those dynamics actually play out?
So it's not about being gossipy or manipulative.
No.
It's about being aware of the power structures.
Right.
And navigating them in a way that's both ethical and effective.
Exactly. And it also ties back to something we talked about earlier. Networking, the stronger your relationships are within the company, the better equipped you'll be to navigate those sometimes choppy political waters.
Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of navigating.
Yes.
Our sources also get into something that can be really tricky.
Okay.
Especially in a globalized world, and that's cultural nuances.
Right, like what flies in one culture might be a major faux pas in another.
Exactly. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The sources don't just provide a list of do's and don'ts.
Right.
They encourage you to approach cultural differences with curiosity and respect.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like instead of assuming you know what's appropriate, ask questions, observe how others interact.
Right.
And be willing to adapt your communication style.
Absolutely. And it's not just about avoiding offense. It's about building trust and understanding across cultural boundaries.
Okay, so we've talked about navigating office politics.
Yes.
And cultural nuances.
We have.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of communication itself.
All right.
Our sources are full of vocabulary related to workplace conversations, meetings, and emails.
It's a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
What's interesting is they don't just define the terms.
Okay.
They give you tips for using them effectively.
Ooh.
Like, for example, they talk about the importance of active listening
Yes.
in meetings.
It's so important.
It's not just about hearing what's being said. It's about engaging with the ideas, asking clarifying questions, and really demonstrating that you're paying attention.
Right. So like nodding and saying, every once in a while
Yeah.
isn't going to cut it.
Not exactly.
Active listening is about being present and engaged, both verbally and non-verbally.
Okay.
It's about making eye contact, taking notes,
Right.
and even summarizing what you've heard to make sure you understand correctly.
Got it. Active listening.
Check.
What else do we need to know about communication?
Well, the sources also talk about the importance of giving and receiving feedback effectively.
Okay, feedback.
It's not just about praising good work or pointing out mistakes. It's about providing constructive criticism
Right.
that helps people grow and develop.
Okay, I think we all know how important that is,
Yes.
but it can be so tricky to do well.
It is, and the sources acknowledge that they recommend focusing on specific behaviors, not personality traits,
Okay.
and framing feedback in a way that's solution-oriented.
So it's not about blaming or shaming.
Yeah.
It's about helping people improve.
Exactly.
That's a really good distinction, and I think it ties into the whole idea of creating a positive and supportive work environment,
Yeah,
which, let's be honest, can be tough sometimes.
it can, but our sources have some great insights.
Oh, good.
On fostering a healthy workplace culture. They talk about the importance of clear communication,
Okay.
mutual respect, and a sense of shared purpose.
So, like, it's not just about being friendly.
Right.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels valued and respected,
Yeah.
and where they can contribute their best work.
Exactly. And it also ties into something we touched on earlier,
What's that?
teamwork. The sources really emphasize the importance of collaboration,
Okay.
both within teams and across departments.
I like that.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute, and that working together is essential for achieving shared goals.
Right. So we've talked about navigating workplace dynamics,
Yes.
cultural
Yeah.
nuances, communication styles, feedback, and teamwork. Is there anything else we need to know before we venture out into the wilds
Oh, I like that.
of the English-speaking workplace?
Well, there's one more topic our sources highlight that I think is really important, and that's mentorship.
Okay. Mentorship.
They emphasize the value of having a more experienced person
Yeah.
who can offer guidance, support, and insights as you navigate your career.
I've heard about that, but I always thought it was something you had to, like, formally apply for.
It can be, but the sources suggest that mentorship can also happen organically
Oh, okay.
through relationships you build within your company or even within your professional network.
So it's like, be open to learning from people who have more experience than you.
Right.
And don't be afraid to ask for advice or guidance.
Exactly. And it goes both ways.
Oh, that's a good point.
As you gain experience, you can also mentor others and share your knowledge and insights.
That's a great point. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part.
We have.
We've talked about navigating workplace dynamics, cultural nuances, communication styles, feedback, teamwork, and even mentorship.
We're really getting into the nuances of what it takes to thrive
I know.
in the English-speaking job market.
We are.
But there's still more to explore in part 3. We're going to dive even deeper into those sometimes unspoken rules of workplace etiquette,
Ooh.
those subtle but oh so important cues
Yeah,
that can make all the difference in how you're perceived.
can't wait.
Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the English-speaking job market.
Ooh, the grand finale.
I know we've covered so much ground already. Resumes, interviews, networking, office dynamics, you name it.
All the things.
But there's one last layer we need to explore,
Okay, I'm intrigued.
and it's all about those unspoken rules
Oh,
of workplace etiquette.
the do's and don'ts.
Exactly, because let's be honest, sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference.
It's true.
And our source material gets in some really interesting nuances here,
Okay.
especially around email etiquette.
Oh yeah, email, the double-edged sword of workplace communication.
You can say that again.
It's so convenient, but it's also so easy to make a mistake
Right.
that can damage your professional image.
So true. I remember this one time I accidentally replied all to an email that was, let's just say, not meant for everyone's eyes.
Oof, we've all been there.
Not my proudest moment.
But the good news is
Our
sources offer some really helpful tips for avoiding those email faux pas.
Okay, good.
Like, for example, they emphasize the importance of starting with a professional salutation.
Right.
Dear Mr. or Mrs. last name is always a safe bet.
Yeah.
Unless you're on a first-name basis with the person.
Right. And even then, it's probably best to err on the side of formality.
Yeah.
At least until you get a sense of the company culture.
Exactly. And the sources also talk about keeping your emails concise and to the point. No one wants to wade through a wall of text.
So like bullet points are our friends.
Absolutely. And avoid using slang,
Great.
emojis, or excessive exclamation points.
Voted.
You want to project an image of competence and professionalism.
And proofread.
Yes.
Typos and grammatical errors
The worst.
can make you look careless and unprofessional.
So true. Okay, so we've mastered the art of email.
We're on a roll.
Now let's talk about another potential minefield.
Okay.
Meeting etiquette.
Ooh, yes. Meetings, love them or hate them, they're a part of almost every job.
It's true.
And our sources highlight some key things to keep in mind,
Like what?
like punctuality.
Yes.
Arriving on time shows respect for everyone's time and demonstrates your professionalism.
And I think it also shows that you're organized and prepared, which is always a good look.
Right. And once you're in the meeting,
Yeah.
the sources emphasize the importance of active participation.
Okay.
Contribute to the discussion, ask clarifying questions, and offer your insights
Yes.
when appropriate.
But also know when to listen.
Yeah.
Don't dominate the conversation or interrupt others.
It's all about balance.
It's about finding that balance between being engaged and being respectful of others.
And one more thing, put those phones away.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're expecting an urgent call, it's incredibly disrespectful
It is.
to be scrolling through social media or texting during a meeting.
It's like you're saying, I'm not really interested in what you have to say.
Okay, so we've talked about email etiquette and meeting etiquette.
check.
Now let's get into something a little more juicy.
Ooh, tell me more.
Our sources actually touch on the topic of workplace gossip.
Ah, yes, the water cooler whispers. It's inevitable in any workplace.
It really is.
But it's definitely something to navigate carefully.
Because even if you're not the one spreading the gossip,
Yeah,
just listening to it can make you complicit.
that's true. And the sources recommend resisting the temptation to engage.
Okay.
In negative gossip, it can damage relationships and create a toxic work environment.
Instead, try to steer the conversation
Yes.
towards more positive topics. Or, if you feel uncomfortable, politely excuse yourself.
And remember, what you say about others reflects on you. It's always best to err on the side of discretion and kindness.
Okay, gossip averted.
He did it.
Now let's talk about something that's essential for success
Yeah.
in any workplace, but especially in an English-speaking environment. Conflict resolution.
Oh, this is where those communication skills we talked about earlier really come into play.
Yeah.
The sources emphasize approaching conflict with a calm and respectful attitude.
Because getting defensive or emotional is only going to escalate the situation.
Exactly. The key is to listen actively to the other person's perspective. Try to find common ground.
Okay.
And focus on finding a solution that benefits everyone involved.
Avoid personal attacks.
Right.
And emotional outbursts.
Yes.
Remember, it's about addressing the issue, not the person.
And if you can't resolve the conflict on your own,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to involve a neutral third party like a manager or HR representative.
Okay, conflict resolved. We're on a roll.
I know, right?
Now let's touch on one final, but incredibly important
Hit me with it.
aspect of workplace etiquette,
All right.
cultural sensitivity.
This is especially crucial in today's diverse workplaces.
Yeah.
It's about being aware and respectful of different cultural norms, values, and communication styles.
Like, for example, in some cultures, direct eye contact is considered a sign of respect, while in others it can be seen as aggressive or confrontational.
Exactly. And there are so many other nuances to be aware of personal space humor, even the way you give and receive gifts.
So it's really about being mindful, doing
Yeah.
your research, and being willing to adapt your behavior to different cultural contexts.
And if you're ever unsure about something, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
It's better to clarify than to unintentionally offend someone.
That's a great point. Cultural sensitivity is really about fostering an inclusive and respectful work environment
Absolutely.
where everyone feels valued and respected.
Wow, we've covered a ton of ground
We really have,
in this deep dive.
from crafting that perfect resume.
When mastering the art of workplace etiquette,
We've given you a comprehensive toolkit for navigating the English-speaking job market.
we did it.
Remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
So true.
Stay curious, keep learning, And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yes. And most importantly, believe in yourself and your abilities.
Now, before we sign off, we'd love to hear from you. What are some of the most interesting or confusing workplace scenarios you've encountered?
Ooh, good question.
Share your stories and insights with us. We're all ears.
Until next time, happy job hunting.